Today we're going to examine a story about hubris. Desperate to save our younglings from an illness that's ravaging the population, we're compelled to attempt to stop the threat by any means necessary. But would creating a new species as a tool to completely eradicate disease-carrying cockroaches solve the problem? Or just create a larger, more dangerous problem down the line? These are the questions pursued by Susan Tyler, an entomologist attempting to subdue an outbreak of what is called Strickler's disease, a mysterious, sudden-onset illness that primarily affects children and is filling all of New York's most gothic hospitals. She penetrates the city's anus in her search for answers, which is a mission of self-discovery. That's why she has to go alone. Using the most advanced and elaborate tech available, they wage biological warfare and induce a total annihilation, trading off one species' children for another. Absent an adequate vaccine, she opted to go after the carrier. Traditionally resistant to chemicals, she created a bioadversary that kills the disease-carrying roaches and dies. But what of the potential unforeseen consequences of eliminating an entire species of arthropod? That remains to be seen. The cool thing about movies is we can go right to there, which brings us to a simple high-rise priest attempting to lock in some sort of thing with designs to do him harm. Whatever it is, it's spooky enough to risk attempting flight, despite not yet having unlocked this ability. Across the way is Chewie, a young boy now comforted by the fact that the world is one priest safer. A boy of simple tastes, he likes to identify shoes, play his spoons to the rhythm of the city, and make things out of bare wire. Uptown, Susan is delivered lunch by her now husband, Dr. Mann, the CDC task force manager who oversaw her project. And she's got plenty going on with her new exhibit, but he's still dropping some heavy hints.
It comes from the urine of Italian menopausal nuns.
Gifting her a fertility booster, cause your boy is feeling like he's ready to sow his seed deeply. Later on, we find Joshy B eating some candied nuts on the stoop just outside the scene of the father's incident. The disturbance led to a beat cop poking around and uncovering a front to a triad slave labor ring. The first thing they did was check the bacterial load, which was off the charts. And that is why the CDC is now pulling jurisdiction on this bitch. Somewhat unsettled by the lack of gratitude following their newfound freedom, it's revealed through translation that the victims share some concerns about the ever-looming presence of an angel of death. Back at Susan's lab,
this city is full of perverts.
Hey, you're the one holding that thing. They're joined by a couple of youths who aspire to be profiteer entomologists. So she instructs them on proper specimen collection and familiarizes them with the high-tech tools available in all standard labs. She talks about soldier ants that drag prey to the center of the colony for feeding, which may be a relevant detail for later, but I'm distracted by the sudden urge to call her. Knowledge is good, but they're interested in that filthy money, so they offer her up a unique specimen they found in the subway. Once that business is done, the bug ladies get back to their research and development, but not long after, a loud thump draws their attention. It turns out to be the cornflakes. Something's been riling them. Now, this might seem like a tense situation, but in the alternative, the CDC lab is busy dissecting man-sized bug turds. Although they do find some sweet buttons inside. So Susan begins to autopsy the breakfast cereal and withdraws a magnificent specimen that she immediately imprints upon as its mother. This is a prescient coincidence, as after a revenge stabbing, it lets out a familiar white foam. This is unique to the Judas species she created, prompting an immediate research montage to try to figure out how nature, the fickle bitch mother of biology, managed to so elegantly bypass the custom forced sterility and life-stopping genes she added. But if that was baffling, how does her mysterious observer play into this? He doesn't take kindly to the mistreatment of hatchlings, so he scoops up the little baby and dashes out, leaving behind little more than a busted bulb. When he returns to his lair, we learn that Chewie has whimsically dubbed him Mr. Funny Shoes. Back at home, Susan's revelation of the evening's revelations creates a somewhat heavy atmosphere. It gives them both quite a bit to chew on, as there may be an oversight with fairly significant consequences on their consciences. The next day in the subway, Papa Manny tries to teach Chewie the family business so he can take over one day. Peter and Susan also arrive here to gather some intel from the young hustlers. They break into a barricaded locker room where the chance dropping of some bees leads reveals the presence of a dank hole behind some lockers. When fishing for a flashlight, Susan nearly becomes the recipient of a chivalrous kiss when a transit officer pops in on them to find out what's up. Now you know the boys are going to have a measuring contest, but Peter can't compel Leonard to let them have their way. While the fellas chat about jurisdiction, Susan wanders off and meets Chewie. She observes his special abilities and gets to know the family a bit until the men get done rolling their dicks back into their pants. The end result is that they're going to need to secure a permit to go further. That night, Mr. Funny Shoes returns and Chewie decides that he can't really live without knowing if he's modeled his figurine to scale. So he ventures down the fire escape and across the street. When he hears a familiar clicking in the dark, he responds with his trusty spoons, a behavior that Mr. Funny Shoes and his brothers seem to find endearing, although his fate is, for now, unknown. Our characters are still pretty far from piecing this thing together. Luckily, down at the old water treatment facility where half the city's employed, some sort of object is gumming up the works. They always send in the new guy with the cadaver hook, and sure enough, he catches on to what might be a dog or a kid or something. The next morning, Peter gets the sense that Susan might be carrying his seed, and it's got him feeling some kind of way. But the joy is tempered by news of the potentially dead kid. And the negative pregnancy test, of course, as Roscoe pulls a full Thanksgiving feast out of the fridge to show the ladies. Peter pulls out the test to find it was discarded too soon. Just to continue this theme of discovery, Manny officially finds Chewie to be missing. Luckily, Peter's permits have come through, so he and Josh move the locker and head straight into the underground. While they embark on their adventure, Manny gets the 48-hour treatment from the police. This prompts him to poke around on his own, and after finding evidence of Chewie's presence, he snoops around until he finds a way in. He doesn't really know where he's going, but he does have a straight razor. Plus, he can follow the soothing clickety-clacking of what he presumes to be Chewie's spoons. Elsewhere, the boys are getting an orientation presentation on the abandoned subway. Susan attempts to arrange a meetup with them, but the reception is pretty spotty, so she just heads down to the platform to wait for their return. In the tunnel, the air begins to get pretty ripe, which they find to be caused by the buildup of some man-sized fecal stalactites that are dangling all over, aggressively pressing nature's majesty all in their faces. Back on the platform, Susan waits patiently while perusing some Polaroids of the water treatment specimen. Eventually, with a little creative collaging, she discovers a strange natural anomaly. Right at that moment, she also hits the witching hour when everyone in New York has arrived at their destination, leaving her lonely. She tries to alleviate this feeling by asking a man for the time, but she's been fooled, for 'tis no man, and it takes her for a free ride down the tube. The boys are getting ready to pack it in when they finally have a successful sighting. Unfortunately, Leonard's response to this eventually sends them crashing to the lower level. Now they're in a pickle because they can't get up and Josh doesn't know how to get out. But as the only hope, he is encouraged to leave them with the shit sickles and try to reach the surface for help. Susan wakes up beneath the dripping hole with chittering noises all around her. She finds a pipe that would be good for self-defense, but is nearly put off when she discovers it's inside a man. Nevertheless, she finds the courage to head down the tunnel and look for a way out. She is so close to civilization, but the rain and subway sound drown out her cries for help. Recognizing that it's her time down here, she becomes determined to not end up like one of these losers. When she gets stuck on, she penetrates the thorax before dumping out into a lower level and securing her temporary safety. Elsewhere, Josh turns a corner and finds himself in the very active nursery. From here, he does find a potential way out, so he starts stacking and climbing, as one does. He puts in a valiant effort to hoist himself topside, but is not able to do so before a soldier-class Judas sinks its teeth into his juicy ass. The boys hear a noise and ends up being Manny, who arrives at their doorstep via Susan's hiding spot. So he leads them back and they three-man a belt in order to pull her up just as her pursuer finally finds its way into her chamber. They manage to pin it in a door, and while Leonard's mag dump does little to stop its aggression, it does manage to pull itself in half in its relentless drive to get its claws on them. Just like we all eventually have to lift the phone book we dropped on the spider, Leonard goes to make sure they're fully safe. Unfortunately, he gets his leg opened up in the process. And while that is bad, at least they now have a better idea of what's been pooping on the ceilings. Susan posits the idea that the development of lungs has removed any size constraints, while it's been ripping through generations and evolving deep under the city. And like many other species, it has developed a camouflage defense mechanism. Their hypothesizing is cut short when they're assaulted from all sides, requiring their attention to be turned toward fortifying their position. But these fools can penetrate steel and are being driven mad horny by the sweet smell of Leonard's silky red rivulets of blood. In a bout of extreme curiosity, Susan starts pulling out glands and sacs and all sorts of things to rub on their bodies, and this has the unforeseen benefit of masking their delectable scent profiles for now. They then have a very productive brainstorming session. Peter's going to the breaker box to connect some wires and juice the place up, while Manny's to go to the track switch and flip it. They're each provided fresh rations of viscera as a protective talisman before beginning their adventures. Peter starts tugging on some wires and finds a nice man down there with him. Luckily, he is invisible due to his pungent odor, courtesy of the goo. Manny makes it to the switch, but then actually finds Chewie over there, so they're making some good progress despite the occasional setback. With no change to the switch state, Susan resolves to go out and check on Manny. When she gets to the switch, she finds Manny's remains, which includes Chewie. And right then, Peter puts the finishing touches on the fuse box, getting them juices flowing the way he does. That must have been what they were foreshadowing. With all that urine talk before, the rail car groans to life but doesn't make it very far down the track before getting jammed up. Leo then warns them off because he's bleeding uncontrollably again. The others all meet up and attempt to flee but are pinned down momentarily. Here it's revealed that all the Mimic really wants to do is tickle their backs a little. Seeing a prime opportunity to find redemption for something, Leonard leads them down the tracks and occupies a little of their time with his soft, supple flesh. Once the women and children are on the dumbwaiter, Peter sends them up and resolves to fix Susan's great mistake here and now as a gift for bearing his child. He finds himself inside the breeding grounds, which is perfect for his plan. He cracks open a gas main and desperately works to make a spark as his audience of giant bugs begins to creep in. He does spark whilst dipping below the water, hopefully protecting him from harm while simultaneously destroying 3 full city blocks. Susan staggers out to find that one soldier managed to keep pace with her. Putting all of her hard-earned knowledge to use, she lets out some of that sweet, sweet vein milk to garner its attention, and then uses its lack of spatial awareness to boot stomp it with a subway car. They attempt to put on a strong front in the face of so much uncertainty.
Shiny wire.
Chewie, you are too much. And what looks like a Mr. Funny Shoes among the throngs of subway passengers is eventually revealed to be Peter, and they all punctuate this journey of growth with a warm embrace. I'm still not sure if a few man-sized bugs are worse than hordes of tiny ones. Let me know what you think in the comments. If that wasn't too much for you, be sure to check out this video next. Now that we're here, I want to congratulate you for making it to the end of the video and affirm that you are a very special person because of it. And if you enjoyed the video, I would love for you to become a part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.